Have a name.
Podcast?
Midlife crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife crisis.
Dadcast?
That's not bad, actually, yeah.
Dadcast, Misadventures in Parenting. Brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasures Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons, one surprise toy in every chest.
And we're live. I'm muting everybody. You're very welcome along to this week's edition of Dadcast, which may be a little bit shorter than some of our other Dadcasts. Are we recording? Yes, we are. There's a little red button in the top corner. This is our second try at this, ladies and gentlemen. I've been doing this 21 years. 21 years of not being smart enough to be able to do this. I can unmute you all now, and I can take the abuse. And Dave's angrily talking to somebody off over his shoulder there. So. Right. Apologies to all the dads are here this week. Nathan is here.
Hey, Ger.
Hi, Nathan. Adrian's here.
For fuck's sake.
And now, language. We have sponsors.
We've just done like.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, how are you?
I hope that particular moment is subject to the editing suite after this. We have paymasters, Adrian. We can't behave in such flagrant fashion now that we are a reputable quartet in some description.
So this is really annoying because actually Nathan had thrown his mother-in-law under the bus, and the chances of him doing it now,
Sorry,
he knew that he did it in the first place.
You can't just go making stuff up. I won't go through my holiday again where we had this brilliant time. Will we give the audience a synopsis, Nathan?
No, I don't think so.
Nathan brought what he was saying was
I didn't bring my mother-in-law.
Specifically at the very start to look after the kids, and then halfway through the chat that Ger Gilroy forgot to record said, "Oh no, I didn't bring her to mind the kids," until he was reminded that was exactly what he said, and then he put the reverse lights on and away he went.
I'm not going to go over it again. I didn't say that. I said it does. Anybody who brings their parents or in-laws, it comes in quite handy at a certain stage of the holiday because it means you can go out for one evening. I was very generous on that evening with my wife, where I said on Friday night, like, we should go for dinner on Friday night. It's like, oh yeah. Let's go up to the hotel. What time? Maybe about 7:30. We go for dinner, and just make sure we're booked into the bar near that giant big screen they have showing Real Madrid, Manchester City.
Oh,
well, you did. The fact was, one of the very first things you said was, we brought the mother-in-law to split the cost into babysit. I don't think I'm even paraphrasing there.
I did not say that.
I think you could have three other witnesses to say that's exactly what happened.
You wouldn't be the first person to bring the in-laws on a holiday. I mean, that is definitely acceptable behaviour.
Probably the first person, though, Dave, to sort of openly say we brought them to split the costs and look after the kids.
No, but I knew that the looking after the kids was not in this. My battery's not going to last now because Jared screwed up the entire.
If only you could plug it in and get a charger.
Well, I can't because I'm plugged into the headphones there, Jerry. You know how this works?
He's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I know technology ain't your strong point right now.
You can. There's like a little thing at the side of the computer that you can plug a charger into that also works for the. Right, Dadcast, the Misadventures of Parenting is brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasures, the Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons and one surprise toy in every chest. The product is treat-wise at only 76 calories. The white Freddo Treasures are also now available. White Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons and one surprise toy in every chest, only 77 calories. Some correspondence this week. Dave and Amy, an expectant dad. All right, lads, just discovered your pod recently and been listening back to the earlier episodes, sometimes with the missus when we're in the car. Very enjoyable and relatable. It turns out everybody thinks we're relatable. We just found out a couple of weeks ago that we're pregnant with our first, around 6 weeks along now. It was planned, although it happened faster than we expected. Not the first time she's heard that, eh? What? Oh, hey. And so far, so good. I'm dying to tell everyone, but we'll hold off until the scan and we hear the heartbeats. I'm sure I'll be back on to you seeking your wisdom when we're further along. But in the meantime, one concern I have is that I tend to lack energy at the best of times and can only endure about an hour with my 6 nieces and nephews before I have to go for a nap. I'm wondering, when you have kids of your own, is there a magical reservoir of energy that parents can dip into which gets them through the weeks, or should I expect to be more or less a miserable zombie for the next few years? Lie to me. Any tips or suggestions in this regard would be greatly appreciated. Cheers, Dave and Amy. Well, first off, congratulations. And secondly, you are going to be a miserable zombie for the next few years.
My first question would be, given that his wife is only 6 weeks along, was there a line in that email where Dave and Amy asked not to be named?
No.
Okay, so they've told the Dadcast that they're expecting their first child before they've told their parents, or maybe their parents, but other people within their close-knit family. The first part of the year, you're definitely going to be zombie. I mean, that is just a given, and that will be the case for probably 2 or 3 years.
There.
And we're now going to get the full conversation as well.
It was not mine, but it has come from my house. Yes, there's a lot going on in the background here, including something very major, which I will explain to you once we have stopped recording. Like a life-changing event. But
is this like you've got the doctors into the house to do the snip in your gas?
Yeah.
Live.
I'm just waiting for the socially distancing camera crew to get their equipment set up. But I don't know.
Fascinated now. I'm not going to be able to think of anything else, Dave. Give us a clue.
No, there's no need. There's an interesting. It's an interesting question about where do you get your energy from? Because obviously, physically, you don't suddenly discover a reservoir of adrenaline and glucose levels that just keep you on an even keel for the duration that's required. But it must be an evolutionary thing. I mean, we're not designed evolution-wise to cope with our 6 nieces and nephews. Because if we treated our own children in the way that we like to hand them back after half an hour, the human race would cease to exist very quickly. Like, you can tolerate your own kids.
Yeah, it is tiring though. Did the correspondent say that they were listening to us before they were up the duff?
Don't know. I mean, they've only recently discovered it and they've been listening together. So, I mean, maybe they were listening to us as they got up the duff. Who knows?
Well, I was literally going to say it seems like an incredibly odd aphrodisiac. I listened to the Dadcast and then be in the humour for being romantic.
The episodes where we described the horrors of the delivery room, for example, would I've thought been one of the great contraceptives.
What's our correspondent's name again?
Dave.
Just to repeat
it should be easy to remember.
Dave and Amy. Dave and Amy. Can't be too many Dave and Amy's out there. The one thing, Dave, is the naps are gone. The thing you need to enjoy for the next 7-8 months, Saturday mornings, just go back to bed. Just don't get up. Just stay in bed as long as you can, and naps. After, when you're a little bit hungover and it gets to the middle of the afternoon, you just want to lie on the couch, start watching a movie or something and fall asleep for 2 hours. Do that as much as you can, because that ain't ever coming back.
When's the last time any of the 4 of us drifted off to sleep mid-afternoon?
No.
I think a few weeks ago we stuck on a movie and somehow all 3 children were watching, and I just sort of went, it was about half an hour. It was just glorious.
I'd say 6 years for me, I'd say.
I was in this. I normally, they watch it, or the older fella watches a bit of TV before he goes to sleep. And lately, the PGA at the weekend has knocked the stuffing out of me entirely for the week now. I was like 1 o'clock again last night going to bed, which is ridiculous when you're trying to catch up with your Zeds. But I fell asleep on the couch while they were watching the TV. And then the youngest one sort of climbed up on top. But what I find the biggest difference for me is that I used to be a fairly light sleeper. And now I find that, like, if I managed to fall asleep on the couch in that scenario, that like they could be using me as a trampoline. And there's not really much budging me. But you got to take your sleep where you can get it once you become a parent was probably the only advice that I could give. And it's not easy. Bloody hell.
You start getting tired when you drive is the other thing when you have kids. I could never understand when I was younger. You know, if you're, particularly back then, going from Mayo to Dublin was a long old trek. You know, they might want to pull in for 45 minutes just to have a bit of a... I'm like, what? Why would we want to sleep? Just keep bloody going. Whereas now it's like, yes, got to pull in. Got to get the coffee. Yeah, God.
I was when I was searching for that email that came through. I did find another email from back in January from somebody who did want to be anonymous. He called himself Fat Dad, who talked about having a struggle with his weight until he ended up getting sick and having to spend a few days in hospital.
We're losing you, Ger.
This is all going to get really speedy now in a second. He was in hospital and then he got let go off and he was at home.
Let's just all guess what we think happens next. Does he? A, see the light and lose all the weight?
But as he was waiting for, and it found out that they had another one on the books for his weight, and he were a psychologist, weight loss experts, endocrinologist, gastric.
Did you just say sex experts? We've missed everything that just happened there.
As have our listeners, Jerry. You're going to have to recap that entire story.
Sounds good, though.
We got an email from somebody that I found when I was looking for the correspondence this week about somebody who'd gone and taken the decision to have gastric sleeve surgery. And 2 years later, and after a lot of work in the gym, he's 11 stone lighter and currently training for his first triathlon, inspired, I suspect, by some of the people on this. And he says the best thing about it is his family life, chasing the kids all day long, loads more time in the pool and outdoors in the gym. So the advice has to be to the expectant dad to spend some time getting fit now. Use these 7 months to get fit, because there will be a whirlwind coming when you have your child. You won't have any time to go off and do stuff, or build in little bits of exercise daily to your routine if you possibly can, and try and stick to them when you have the baby, as opposed to lying in on Saturday morning, because that's like...
Well, let's not be alarmist.
Very alluring.
Let's not be alarmist. On the assumption that it's not twins or triplets or anything even of greater numerical significance than that, for 6 months, I'm just taking, your average situation, his wife will be on maternity leave. That means that one or the other can have a lie on every second morning at least. The baby is going to sleep for about 15 hours a day. So it isn't going to be the cataclysmic event that some people would make it out to be. I think we've been pretty good in this podcast for portraying the positive side of these things as well.
I don't know. I think
you don't go weeks on end without
a bomb going off in your life. What if they in the middle of the night? Yeah. If you get a non-sleeper, those 15 hours might come from 8 a.m. to like 3 p.m., wake up for a little while, and then be like, wah, from midnight to 3:30 in the morning, and you are dead.
But there will be time for you to get some sleep. There always is. You may just have to sleep during the day.
But what if you got to work?
Well, I suppose I'm kind of going off my own experience where work wasn't necessarily a major imposition and at some times, as you guys well know. But because I know there was often an empty chair there where you expected it to be filled by someone resembling me. But I don't know, it's not all, negative. There is the potential to get some sleep. There is a potential to be able to relax here and there when there's the two of you in it and one of the two is on maternity leave.
One last bit of correspondence. James Downey got in touch with us on Twitter to say, I think I saw Nathan trying to fold down a buggy today in Courtown. Wife presumably had to come to the rescue. We've all been there.
Should have said hello, James. Should have said hello. Yeah, that was just on our way back from. It's gone now. That story. We went to Wells House and it was closed, so we went to Courtown in the cold and the rain and the misery, and we got a travel buggy for the soon-to-be 2-year-old, you'll be glad to know. And I had never used it before. And there was no instruction, so I had no idea how to get this buggy down. So, yes, I had to get my wife into the rescue. I didn't actually know it was going to be a big thing at the time. But obviously, I quickly discovered that I was being watched at this crucial moment. And I'd let myself down badly, and all of mankind down badly.
Oh, no, you were by no means the first male or father to struggle with a travel buggy. They take on a life of their own, and your fingers are in peril constantly of just getting snipped off at the tips.
There's also a part of you that's like, I am man, and if I was to properly go at this with force, I would probably break it. If I was to put my foot through it the way I feel it needs to be pushed down, it may just snap, is my excuse.
Celebrity dad Nathan Murphy struggles hilariously. You won't believe what celebrity dad Nathan Murphy is struggling to do.
Coming to the Daily Mail soon.
He thought he was putting the buggy away, and then this happened.
Yeah.
You would actually love that, Nathan. If the Daily Mail would only report on your travails in parenting, you would love it.
If only.
We did also have another one. Dave, you were starting the story when I realized that I had not quite actually hit record, but you were talking about GA camp and how you were worried about passing on to your kids the very fears and anxieties that you had.
Yeah, it was mainly the Sunday night before the Monday on which camp begun. I was definitely nervous about him going because I just wasn't sure how much he would enjoy it. Particularly it was Raheen's GA camp. It's just gone brilliantly, thankfully, and they've organised it incredibly well. And they've ticked every box as regards COVID and social distancing and all the precautions that had to be in place. I've been so impressed with him. But he wasn't always a fan of the hurling side of things, and I was just worried that if I wasn't there and he wanted to duck out for that segment of it, what would he do? Would he be on his own? Would he feel left out? Would he feel a little bit isolated? And I'm pretty sure that I projected all of my anxieties onto him over that weekend prior to camp starting, because I just noticed a little change in his behaviour. And I think I was just pestering him too much about it, almost wanting him to tell me what I wanted to hear, for him to tell me, no, don't worry, I will be fine and I will really enjoy myself and you have nothing to worry about. And while that was just one specific example, it got me to thinking as to the overall situation as regards passing on your own anxieties and nerves onto your children, because we've talked about it on the pod many times about how the worries that we have for our kids and certain fates befalling them and our family, and maybe them getting sick or getting hit by a car or being unhappy or failing in school or whatever it might be.
Getting
at what
hit by
point
a car or feeling unhappy.
The bad things.
How do you ensure that you don't unnecessarily transfer these anxieties onto them? Because I did it and it affected him in a little way, and thankfully he's mentally strong enough to be able to overcome what I'm doing to him. But I just wonder what your experience of that was.
Well, did this come up a little bit in the Irish Times this week as well, when there was somebody talking about their kids being anxious about not being shouted at by their dad?
Yeah, well, there was a father had written into the child section of the what is it, the parenting section of the Irish Times, and the headline was basically, I've become a shouter and it's affecting my kids. And he had been told by his wife that his children were now in fear of him. And he was basically reaching out, seeking a little bit of advice on how to change that situation. So yeah, it can happen very easily. And sometimes we've all wondered whether we shout too much. We've talked in detail on the podcast in episodes gone by about trying to avoid the descent of the red mist and losing the rag. And if you lose it often enough, eventually your kids are going to be cowering in fear of your reaction to something usually trivial.
Yeah. My middle child sometimes will shout, "Why are you being so cross?" And then the whole place erupts in laughter, and we're like, "It's a good question."
My wife screwed me over completely last year when we were on holidays. Where
last year,
I'm not like I don't lose my temper. I just don't have a temper, so I don't. The red mist does not descend. I'm just.
I also would like to beg to differ. I mean, I don't
really. Have you been on this podcast for the last 3 years telling us about the various instances when you've actually been screaming at your own children? Yeah.
No, but not. I wouldn't be. It's like a constant low-level anger, which is even worse. So I don't know what was. I'd be just particularly on holidays and things like that. Be overly wary of the surroundings and things like that. So I'd always be. Over-parenting. So my wife said, one day, why is Daddy always so angry? And the kids have latched onto that and now use this as a stick to beat me with constantly. Whenever I'm kind of getting a little bit angered, like, why are you angry again? You're always angry. Mommy says you're always angry. Like, I said it once.
No, I'm not.
I said it once. Oh, my God. But
I'll show you angry.
Part of me kind of laughs and part of me goes like, is this me? Is this who I am in their eyes? I'm the angry guy. And how do I get away? How do I get away with that? Or get away from that?
There is that. Like, I don't know. Am I in danger of giving away too much here? Sure. Look, if I break the habit of a lifetime, I suppose. There is that thing of, like, I'd say myself and my wife would be pretty. Like, obviously, we had a relationship before we had kids, and then you behave like a normal human being until you have kids, and then you have to change your behaviour to the point where, obviously, when they become aware of you and of behaviour generally, if that's not too abstract a concept, but. So we haven't really curtailed our own behaviour towards each other in terms of, like, have a bit of a dig here and there. It's all good in good spirit and good fun, and we do it fairly.
You better just explain that. You better. It's metaphorical, not literal.
No, like a jibe or like a bit of a, and so that happens, and then obviously, like Nathan said, then sometimes the kids can be like, so it's only recently I've started to say, oh, actually, maybe it's not right to say those things in front of the kids, because like they're taking them absolutely literally and then running with it, like, whereas that's not really the intention of it. I don't know why I'm tired and stressed. I don't know why you started making this point. What's going on? What are we doing?
You're an angry man. You're an angry man. You don't want your kids to think of you as an angry man.
Oh, sorry. The point was that in relation to Dave's original question, because I think there's two different things at play here, is that ultimately we're all offshoots of our parents, good, bad, or indifferent. So there's been things that all of our parents would have done when we grew up that have rubbed off on us, and with the benefit of maturity at some point, whether that be at 13, 15, 18, 25, 40, you realize, you start to become aware of these things, and you choose to bring them with you for good or leave them behind you for bad. Do you know what I mean? Like that, just because you're saying, Dave, in this instance, why couldn't you be good at football, or like, would you not get into football, or would you not watch them, or whatever it might be, it doesn't always have to leave like some lasting scar. And also, you have to be yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't be constantly second guessing yourself to say, is this the right approach? Am I a fantastic parent every second of the day? Of course you're
not. I don't think I ask myself that very often, because the answer is clearly no, I'm not. And I don't think anyone is the best parent they could be. I mean, if every dad sat down and analysed the way that they handle certain situations, you could definitely be a better parent. But there's no such thing as perfect. Like, no one's going to get there. So you can do your best to kind of get to that situation, but I don't spend too much time worrying about whether I'm doing things perfectly or not. It was just in this situation, I just felt that my worries made the other party more worried than they needed to be. So I think I'll learn from that. Next time on.
Yeah, I think, for example, are you scared of flying? Does the experience of flying, when hopefully you will at some point do it again, do you transmit that fear to your kids? Or are you scared of spiders or whatever? Like, all of those things, they're scared of dogs. Like, how you react and how you respond to it. My children are all terrified of wasps and bees, because, like, I'm Ned Flanders anytime I see one. What are we going to do?
But it's probably incredibly important for the next few weeks as well, as they start to go back to creche and to school, because of that balance of them being aware of what they have to do to make sure that they're safe and that they look after themselves and they wash their hands and all that stuff. But you don't want them to be fearful of going back to school the way we probably will be at times over the next little while, and worried about what awaits them and how their life is going to be affected. As to how you get that balance of, well, it's not going to be normal, but also don't stress about it. Don't stress about it, as you're saying, Dave. Don't stress about it, despite you talking about it all the time, how this is going to be this massive change. Just don't stress about it. Leave all the stress to me. Fine. I'll just stress about this. You just be perfectly fine, 8-year-old.
Yeah, the answer is to bottle it up yourself and keep it right down there, deep inside. Don't mention it to the person who you are worried you may end up worrying, which is what I should have done. I should have just let day one unfold. And then if there were any issues arising from day one, we deal with them then, as opposed to me spending most of the previous Sunday saying, so are you looking forward to tomorrow? Is there any parts that you're looking forward to more than others? Are there any parts that you're not necessarily looking forward to as much as others? What happens if this happens? Or what if the hurling bit starts and you don't like it? And what about this, that, and the bloody other? It was in his ear the whole time. Poor fella. It was badly managed. So I will learn from it.
Well, look, that's all you can do, right? That is literally all you can do, is make these mistakes now and hope that at some point they don't throw them back in your face in 20 years and stick you with a big bill for therapy or whatever it is. All right. I don't know how long we've done. Does anybody know how long? Can you tell?
Well, we've actually done about an hour and a half, but in terms of stuff that's been recorded, Ger, I'd say about half an hour.
Can I just point out on the anger thing as well, that we shouldn't forget during all this that, like, our kids are manipulative little bastards. So ever since my wife said that about the anger, the middle child constantly brings it up when I have good reason to be angry. He just turns it back at me and goes, you're angry, Daddy, like Mommy said, angry. And I'm like, but I'd be entitled to be angry right now. But now you're putting it back at me and I can't be angry because proving her point by being angry.
She has really landed you in it there.
I know.
And it's so...
I'm perfectly pleasant.
I would become incredibly angry if I was accused of being angry when not angry.
Yeah, it's vicious.
So how are you going to get out of this?
Well, I'm like anything. I hope he just forgets about it as time goes on.
No, but dealing with your own anger issues, I think Dave means.
Whoa.
Hang on.
It's definitely not Dave's gap anyway, right? Like,
no.
Yeah, we've established that.
Actually, this is going to look great in videos. He's getting angrier.
That's right. I think I know what's going on in his house. I might be mistaken, but I think I know what's going on. And only that I think it might breach some sort of a potential sort of personal
The bit
situation.
where he told you not to mention it, that bit, like...
Was that?
Yes,
okay,
there was a message expressly. Yeah.
But
People are going to find it even more. Think it's far more interesting than maybe it actually is now.
Yeah.
No, it's not
we'll talk about it at some point in the
the
future.
fact that Dave is sitting there broadcasting while this is happening is it's like, anyway, it's probably, let's move on.
Very quickly, hello, woman from Scotland again. Now that the cast is definitely back, congrats on a great sponsor. Wondered if the dads fancy trying out this 50-50 quiz. It's for men living in a household with dependent children and focuses on the tasks that arise purely as a result of this. It's quite lengthy, but could provide some good material. Or chuck it in the S file if you think it's shit. # no judgments. Clearly judging us. I'll put up some of the questions on the Dadcast Twitter account over the next while, as opposed to getting into it at the moment. But the last episode I listened to was interrupted at least 20 times. But I think I picked up that Electric Picnic is cancelled. So a certain dad may have some kind of delay to his self-imposed snip deadline. I'm surprised no one has mentioned before that the key to a successful vasectomy is extremely regular scheduling, which must begin as soon as ready. This is clearly stated in the important leaflet to be read before this procedure and will typically be within a couple of days. What more of an incentive could be needed? Keep the pods coming. All the best. Fill it out. Working, married mum with 2 kids, 4 and 6, living the parenting dream near Prestwick.
Who is she talking about?
You.
Yeah, I know.
Just in case any of our slow listeners out there, Dave promised at the Electric Picnic last year, which is like next week or the week after, that he'd have had the snip done by now, but there's no sign of it. He's kicked that can down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it was always likely this situation would arise. Yeah, I don't know. She's calling it a massive incentive. I don't think that changes the dynamics of the situation at all. I'm shrugging my shoulders there for the benefit of our listeners. I am intrigued by the quizzes, by the 50-50 quiz questions.
No, stick with the other bit there. So it would be no change for your normal schedule. Is that what you're saying? That doesn't change because of that, or it would be actually something that is too exhausting to you, and you'd be like, "Oh no, thanks."
No, I can't see. I don't see anything that would alter the schedule, the particular schedule she's talking about. Really, like the schedule is the schedule. You know, there is no schedule.
I was just going to say, is there a schedule? Yeah?
There is no schedule. It's
the schedule. We've spoken so much about schedules, but we've never actually committed ourselves as to say whether we have schedules or not. I'm gonna dip in first here, and I appreciate that you three might be the ones standing at the edge of the 40-foot looking at me saying you're going to follow me in and don't bother. So I understand that before I say this. But no, there's no schedule in our house. And that's not like some sort of a, hey, no schedule needed around here.
Do that again. What does it mean?
Sure, we wouldn't have enough paper. We wouldn't have enough ink or paper to get ours filled in.
That's me done.
Hey lads,
it's actually quite warm in here. Come on, it's quite warm in here.
Who's next? Gilroy.
Sorry, is the question, do you actually go to the trouble of having to schedule sex?
So like your Gruffalo wall chart has a little mark on it.
Or you send a little
ticker on X.
Calendar reminder.
Friday.
Teams meeting.
You mark it with a tick or an X depending on what's taking place.
A rating, Dave, or is that like a body position?
Well, no, whether or not an event took place at all. Whether you've missed your scheduled event.
I thought you were actually putting in a specific sort of
analysis
for the meeting. Yeah.
Well, I'll follow you down the cliff edge, Adrian. There's definitely none in this house, and I couldn't ever imagine there being one. Really, such matters just take care of themselves.
Or don't.
Or don't, as the case may be. We know the Murphys considered one, didn't they?
There's no schedule in this house.
It was a listener that had got in touch with us at one stage discussing the fact that they had a schedule, wasn't it? Maybe that's where it came from.
It was, I was at a stag, and the stag turned around to everybody and went, "Here, do you have to schedule sex?" And one of my mates went, "No, we just do it every night." And that was the starting point for this conversation. A good year and a half ago now, at this point, I'd say. Are we ever going to all have stag parties? Well, I mean, I'm too old for them now anyway, but like no one's going to have stag parties the way they used to have, are they? Like gatherings where you go off and stay in a cheap hotel and share a room and go out and shout at each other in loud bars. That's not going to happen anymore, is it?
And lie about having sex every night. Yeah, not at the minute. Anyways, have you committed here, Ger? Are you sidetracking this, or are you?
No. I said that there's no schedule. I mean, I think I can see why people do have it, though. I can totally understand. Someone's broadcasting live into the show there. Someone's earphones are picking up a lot of conversation there, Dave. Probably you.
Yeah, it is me.
Just
look at the look. Killer.
Just
look.
mute there in case we hear anything we're not supposed to.
So yeah, could you take him in next Wednesday at about 2:30?
Less than 15 minutes, all told.
Said conversation has been shifted into the next room.
It'll be cleaned up and gone. No, it hasn't. We're getting that loud and clear, Dave.
Oh, it's gone now.
The microphones are very good. I will bring you some of those questions that I think they're one example is your partner is pregnant and you're discussing parental leave. You decide A, you will continue to work full time and take 2 weeks off around the time of the birth. B, your partner will take the full amount of parental leave, even though it's likely to affect your career prospects and earning potential when she returns to her current position of work. And C, you'll split the parental leave you're entitled to, as it'll be great to bond with the child while still a baby, and work is important to both of you. That's the example. That's one of the examples. There are many more. It's 15 of them.
Right.
But
it's not as incendiary as I was hoping.
Well, there's plenty of incendiary stuff
so far.
Say that again.
Sorry, so you see my battery's about to die, so I'd plug in my phone, Ger.
Oh yeah, good man.
Never mind. It wasn't very exciting. I'll go A.
Well, it's mostly seeds is what you're looking for, just
really?
to let everybody know there, yeah. And then one of the questions that we wanted to ask for next week is, how do you prevent one child from destroying the mood of the house? If they're not happy, nobody is allowed to be happy. I think this is a fairly common one. Dadcast@offtheball.com for your considered thoughts on that, or you can always get us at DadcastPod. But that is pretty much all we've got time for on this week's show. My apologies for shaving off the first 15 minutes when Nathan, Jesus, you should have heard the things he was saying about his mother-in-law.
Did not happen.
There's a hotel in the southeast of Ireland that's dodged a major bullet, as has Nathan's mother-in-law.
Oh yeah, very good point. This place was absolutely slated.
That I will go along with, yes.
So he's possibly saved himself a lawsuit as well.
We'll do that next week, Nathan. You can tell us about your holiday next week, and
pretend it never happened.
Being forced to spend time talking to your children was about the worst thing that could possibly happen to a 40-year-old man.
True.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Dadcast, Misadventures in Parenting, brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasures Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons, one surprise toy in every chest.